Hi, I'm Matt, and I work in developer relations at Mage. Mage is an open source hybrid framework for transforming and integrating data. And we built Mage because data transformation is still opaque and difficult. And while open source options exist, they often force users into code-first or GUI-only solutions, where code-first solutions are inherently complex and difficult to manage at scale, and GUI-first solutions are necessarily rigid and often difficult to develop. But we feel there's a better way, and so Mage is designed to democratize data transformation and orchestration and bring development best practices to data engineering. And above all, we're here to make data engineering fun, and hopefully that shows in this demo. I really do believe this is the most fun data engineering tool you'll use. There's a low bar right now, but we're going to set the bar pretty high. So without further ado, we can jump right into it. On the right here, we have the pipelines overview page. And we're going to start with the new batch pipeline, but we also support data integration, streaming pipelines, and we support creating pipeline templates that you can then reuse across your project. A recent feature is using generative AI to build pipelines, which we support as well. But in our standard batch pipeline here, we're going to start from the Titanic dataset, which is just a CSV of Titanic ticket sales. So we're going to use a data loader to pull in an API template, but we also have templates for data lakes, data warehouses, databases, Delta Lake, and others, right? We also support writing arbitrary SQL to pull in data. But we'll start with the Python API. And so you see we have this great notebook interface, and we get a pretty cool tree on the right of our pipeline. So this is a pretty simple call here. We're just gonna read a CSV from this URL. So that's one line. But then the other thing that I do want to call out is that at Mage, we treat tests as a first-class citizen. So we have this test decorator that defines a function that can test the output of the above block. And tests, right, they're often an afterthought, which means they don't happen. And you know, if it's not P0, it's not happening at all. So here we're going to print the length of our columns in our output data frame and then assert that they're equal to 12. So this is really powerful because as we're developing, we can see in real time what the data that we're getting and make sure that it's correct. So running this cell, we get the output, and we notice there are 12 columns, but it's also kind of obvious that the capitalization is kind of odd in these column names, and some of the column names don't make a ton of sense. It's not clear what they are. So for our transformation, we're just going to perform some pretty basic renaming. Again, we support all these transformation templates, transformation in SQL, some other fancy stuff. But for this demo, we're just going to rename some columns. So I mapped these out beforehand. I'm just going to drop in a little pandas renaming. And you know, that's the other thing. If you like writing in pollers, it's a new thing. If you like DuckDB, you can do all that stuff here too. You can write transformation in pollers in DuckDB and it's going to flow through. We support all of those languages because you can write arbitrary Python in these blocks. So that's really powerful. Here, we're just renaming the columns though. So finally, right, we have our extraction, we have our transformation, and we're going to do some loading. So we'll use our data exporter to Postgres because we have a Postgres database stood up. And we're just going to simply write to raw Titanic tickets. So that's our output database. And with the click of a button there, we open the connection and export our data frame. And so that's Mage in a nutshell, right? Super simple, extract, transform, load. But the power comes in that this is totally scalable and generalizable to an entire data team. So you can imagine having an architect or a high-level data engineer that builds these patterns, builds these templates, block templates, pipeline templates, etc. And then you have like this army of super stoked data engineers that just go out and build the most awesome data pipelines imaginable. And you know, from that standpoint, not everybody needs to know Docker, not everybody needs to be a DevOps ninja, but everybody gets to interact in this cool user interface. Everybody gets to build data pipelines and be a data engineer and move the needle. So we think that's really powerful. We'd love for you to come hang out in our Slack. You know, we really pride ourselves in our support, and you know, we put the user first, and we make sure that every question gets answered, and we're really proud of our response times. But you can deploy Mage on Docker, you can deploy it on Kubernetes. We have Helm charts, we have Terraform templates. There's all this cool stuff in our GitHub and even more in our Slack if you have any questions. So come hang out, drop us a line, just post an article you love, share a book you're enjoying, or like chat Mage and get some help. We're always there for you. So we'll see you on the other side. Good luck with the tool. Have a great day, and I'd love to hear about your experience with it.